Good evening. I remember a particular day when I was 11 years old. The day started like any other day. My mom woke me up first so that I could help my sisters and my brother get ready. I'm the eldest of 5. I like being first. It makes me feel natural. Now, my siblings didn't quite appreciate me being the eldest, but I loved to dig it in when my mother would say to them, "Listen to your sister, she's the eldest." As I said, the day started like any other day. It was a cold, late October day in the morning in Milwaukee. We were wrapped up tight in our winter coats and neck scarves. Mom had my baby sister in her arms as we crossed the street to catch the bus like every other midweek day. I didn't know that halfway crossing the street, my everyday reality would change. Mom fell. She fell in the middle of the street with Yvette in her arms. I tried to help her up, but she was having a hard time moving. A good Samaritan finally stopped by to help us, and we eventually made our way back to the house. Mom had to lie down the rest of the day, and little by little, day by day, after that cold October day, I saw my mother deteriorate. Our daily routine was no longer routine. Mom lost most of her muscular functions. My days were now filled with blending my mom's food and slowly, gently pumping it down a tube that was in her nose. I remember ever so carefully manually pumping air into her mouth through a trachea that also was placed in her neck. And I did that with an antiquated bamboo bag. Careful, careful, don't hurt your mom, I tell myself. Mom would use every bit of her strength in her darkest moments to pat my hand and to let me know that she was okay. When I reflect on those moments, I realize that even in her darkest moments, she found a way to calm me. She found a way to calm my fears and to let me know that I was not hurting her. She found a way to let her 11-year-old be 11. Mom became completely bedridden. She had little muscular strength, and I spent a lot of my time crying to myself because no one could tell me what was really happening. All I knew was what I saw, and what I saw terrified me. Mom could barely swallow. She struggled to breathe. I sat for hours just watching her, wondering why God wouldn't help her get better. I had no answers, just more questions whirling around in my head that wouldn't stop. Stop, stop, I cried to myself, but those questions just kept coming. Fear and anxiety became my everyday feelings. Dad tried to keep our family together, but it was just too hard. Actually, it was impossible. He had it and needed to keep working, so I remember seeing the exhaustion in his eyes. For a while, we had various aunties on my mom's side come to live with us for weeks at a time, but Mom wasn't getting better. I heard my aunties fighting with Daddy and telling him things that he didn't want to hear. With no diagnosis and no measurable improvement, it was decided that Mom would go live with her mom, my grandmother, some 3 hours away. My siblings, too young to really understand, were scared when they left our house for the final time to go live with various aunties that they barely knew. That was the first time I saw my daddy cry. It would take more than a year, many hospitalizations, and at least 4 trips to the Mayo Clinic before Mom's disease had a name. I still hate the sound of that name. It took me a long time to say it correctly. Myasthenia gravis. I have to admit, that's a pretty big mouthful for a 13-year-old. And what did it mean exactly? I didn't understand. I was scared. I was sad. Forget fearful and anxious. I was angry. Myasthenia gravis was taking my mother away from me. Myasthenia gravis was tearing my family down, and myasthenia gravis sent my siblings to other homes. Our family was scattered, no longer under one roof. I was constantly tired, and I felt lost in the shuffle of it all. Dad was an accountant for Mobil Oil Corporation. He served in the armed forces for several years before he and Mom married, so he was somewhat what we called regimented. All he ever wanted was an intact family, and now his was scattered. His family not being under one roof took a large toll on him. Knowing that Dad was adopted, I understood his torment. Dad took on a second job, and I think it was to make sure that the medical bills got paid. Mom's condition was not improving, and she needed continuous medical care. I guess because I was the eldest, I got to stay with Dad at our house as he ran up and down the highway. I saw up close and personal what he did day to day to make work, driving to see Mom, and taking care of his 5 kids in different households happen. By the time Mom was finally diagnosed, she was physically so bad off that I hardly recognized her when Dad and I went to visit her and my sister Andrea at Granny's house. As we turned the corner and I would see the house, my feelings of fear and anxiety always came back tenfold. When I'm honest with myself, I hated seeing my mom like that. But my sister, she was so happy to see us that I knew we needed to be there. When Daddy and I would leave her, she would always be crying because we left her behind to make sure Mom wasn't alone. I always prayed that she understood. Fast forward 2 years. Daddy's job transferred us to Texas. Mom's health was drastically improving. The warm climate, proximity to her specialists, and improved medical cocktails were working. That's what we told ourselves. Mom was having what I called and remember as better and good days. Those were days when she could actually swallow. She could breathe on her own. Though I still saw her struggles, I was cautiously happy because Mom having more good days was positively affecting our family new normal. My family was now under one roof, and the happy on my father's face was soothing. I could literally feel it in the air. I could breathe. I love that we were finally back together as a family. It was still scary, but also inspiring to watch my mom fight through the new challenges that came her way each day. I prayed that nothing would go wrong. Mom was seemingly fearless, which made me forget to be fearful. I saw her read her Bible and make extraordinary efforts to take care of her family. She and Dad showed us kids what it looked like to be a family. When I reflect, I never heard them complain, ever. I was able to start dancing with a local neighborhood group while also taking ballet, tap, and jazz classes at the conservatory across town on Saturdays. Those Saturdays were filled with what I loved most, dance. Dancing allowed me to escape. I was fearless and anxiety-free when I floated across the room on point or when I struck an arabesque pose cold. I gladly took the bus to get there. Mom's recovery still would not allow her to drive. And Daddy was busy shuffling my siblings to soccer, baseball, and basketball, but he always managed to be there for my performances. He would tell me just how proud he was of me, and that touched my heart and made me soar. I was voted junior prom queen, and though Mom struggled, she was back to sewing and cooking for her family. She was so determined to make my dress. She made me feel like a model as she measured, cut, taped, and pinned me until she had the absolute perfect pattern that she wanted. And the dress, wow, it was beautiful. It was perfection. I would say long-sleeved white gown with silver trimming and a faux white fox jacket to match. I remember feeling incredibly special that night. I was so proud to wear that dress. It stayed in my closet way too long. Funny, I never thought of the dance when I took it out from time to time. I would just look at it and remember the strength and determination it took. Not mine, hers. Mom was the bravest person I knew. I think of her often. I see her smile, I feel her touch, and I remember her always saying, actions speak louder than words. She certainly showed her family what it looked like to be down, but never out. Weary, but never defeated. and too blessed to be stressed. Yes, I am Odessa's child. Today, in fact, is the 5-year anniversary of my mom's passing. Love you, Mom. It was finally time for me to leave my tight-knit family and go off to college. I chose a school that matched my private school upbringing. I chose to attend Texas Women's University, an all-girls college. I declared dance as one of my majors, much to the chagrin of my father, who was hoping for a degree in accounting from his eldest. But I had to tell him, Daddy, your little girl could care less about rubbing 2 nickels together or sitting in a chair all day, adding and taking care of ledger sheets. No, sirree, my plan, I'm gonna dance my way across somebody's stage and see my name up in lights somewhere. And then it happened. I'm high-stepping in rhythm, my heart is pounding, and I'm started to swish my palms as I hear the announcer say, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for your halftime entertainment. Here to perform is America's favorite squad. The music begins, and I'm leaving the tunnel to take the field for the first time with 31 other girls to perform our much-practiced routine. I'm a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Thank you.